meeting. I'll just mention a few of the bills there. For final vote are two interjurisdictional compacts. One, an interjurisdictional compact to permit telepsychology to broaden or create more flexibility with regard to access by district residents to psychologists, and the interstate physical therapy compact approval, which is, I think, close to 30 states have now joined this compact, and it's only been in existence for a couple of years. Again, to broaden access to physical therapy. There's a bill for final reading that would require for substantial renovation and new construction of office buildings that there has to be, I think it's 20% of the parking spaces have to be equipped for electric vehicle charging. There are two bills that deal with commemorations like statues and going forward, as well as looking at current names. We're setting up a commemoration task force to look at names, and a Diverse Washingtonians Commemoration Amendment Act, which will try to get more statuary or other memorials to diverse Washingtonians. Diverse could be women, it could be African Americans, other minorities. The goal is to really do more to look at and promote our history. There's another bill for final reading that would be the first step in a compact amendment to the WMATA Compact. So Maryland and Virginia would have to follow suit to set up an independent police complaints review board for WMATA. It would not be completely independent, it would be part of WMATA, but it would be independent of the transit police. And that's scheduled for final vote tomorrow. The Council will be considering a resolution regarding the submission requirements for next year's budget. It's a little hard to believe that we're already there, but this would set forth the submission requirements. Among other things, that the budget would be transmitted to the Council March 31st. Hopefully we will not be seeing a repeat of what happened this year where we delayed the budget, which we had to do. It'd be nice to get back to a more normal schedule. There's also an emergency bill that I'm putting forward that would revise the emergency legislation we've adopted around the pandemic that told any FOIA requests. And this is going to reopen somewhat gradually the process for FOIA requests. FOIA's Freedom of Information Act. I believe it is beginning January 15th in the legislation. Some agencies have been able to process FOIA requests. I believe the electronic requests, like looking at email, are easier to do than when it requires in-person reviewing documents. And this is meant at trying to ease that the stoppage that basically occurred, the tolling that occurred. Councilmember Bonds is moving an extension of a program through our Housing Finance Authority with regard to helping seniors with reverse mortgages where they've been caught up in a reverse mortgage and are about to be foreclosed. This program provides some assistance. Not all of the money has been spent, so this would extend that program. And Councilmember Allen and I are moving an amendment to the emergency adopted in the summer regarding police and policing to extend the deadline for the Police Reform Commission. I believe we're extending it to April 30th. I think we're expecting that they will complete their recommendations by April 1st and that they will then want just an additional month to deal with testimony and so forth. That's not everything, but that's what I think are the highlights of what we're considering tomorrow. I'm happy to take some questions, and I'll be sticking around so there'll be questions after the mayor as well. Tom?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Over the last few days, you accused the D.C. Chamber of Commerce of lying, your word, about a proposed False Claims Act amendment. That's unusually harsh public language by you. Why that tone, and what's been the reaction from the Chamber? Have you spoken to the Chamber since, and what is the status of the bill?
Well, I had reached out to the Chamber last week about, they had put out a so-called call to action, and it was full of falsities and mistruths, and I demanded that they retract it. I heard nothing, so I put out that statement yesterday. The bill that's before us for final reading is a bill that takes existing law, False Claims Act. It's been in existence for a couple of decades. It's been used successfully. Basically, what it does is it takes advantage of whistleblowers who have inside information. The government's unaware of it. They know that the government's being cheated, and they can, in the name of the district government, file a suit. If they're successful, the district gets the bulk of the money that we were cheated out of, but the whistleblower gets a small amount. Could be between, I think it's 15 and 30%. Almost every state in the federal government has a False Claims Act. When it was originally adopted by the district, we excluded taxation because the federal government excluded it. This bill would include tax matters. The mistruths are to suggest that any tax issue, even where one has gotten an audit and gotten a clean bill of health, or where they went to the CFO and got advice, that all that could be second-guessed in one of these lawsuits. That's just false. That's inaccurate. It has to be fraud. So if a taxpayer goes to the CFO for advice and gets advice and follows that advice, that's not fraud. So that's why I use that harsh language. This is really the government taking advantage, and it's not unique to the district. Laws like this exist in most of the states, taking advantage of those in the private sector, I'll call them whistleblowers, who have inside information of where the government is being cheated.
All right, thank you very much for that explanation, but it's just so rare. I don't